Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Travis and thank you for joining me today. In this video series we're going to be going over what it takes to be a help desk technician. I originally had this video series on another channel and I'm bringing it over to this channel just so that way I can update it and add some new content to it. So to make sure that you get all the new videos that are coming, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel and click the bell icon so that way you're notified. Alright, and for today's video we're going to take a look at PDQ Inventory. This is a free tool that will allow you to collect information about computers on your network. So this is my technician machine, and this is just a virtual machine. And you can see I already have some tools pre-installed, and we'll be going over some of these tools and using them in future videos. In this case today we're going to be taking a look at PDQ Inventory, and we're going to be using the free mode. There is an enterprise mode, and it does cost money, but we're going to be using the free version. We can of course activate a 30-day trial if we want to, but I'm going to show you what you can do with the free version. So I already have PDQ loaded, and you can see here I have 3 machines that responded and 4 machines total. 3 of these are servers, and the tech PC is my tech workstation. You'll see here on the first column it says if it's online or not. And what PDQ Inventory does is it actually sends out a heartbeat request to each of the machines. And if it responds to that heartbeat request, it'll show that it's online. And this server here is actually not joined to my Active Directory domain. So PDQ Inventory cannot contact it, and that's why it says that the target computer is offline. But it can pull some basic information from it, as we can see here. So in the next column, under scan status, it'll tell us if the machine is scanning or not. In this case, these machines are not scanning, they're already in there. So it will just tell us about this one machine where it says that's offline. In the next column, we can tell what operating system it is. In this case, the mail archivist server is running Windows Server 2019. My Exchange server is running 2016. My domain controller is running 2016, and my tech machine is running Windows 10. Under OS version, we can actually get the full OS version, as you can see here, 30.2 or 30.25 and 30.53. We can tell that the Exchange server has been upgraded or has some updates applied to it, and the domain controller is missing some updates just because this version number is off. So that's one of the helpful ways that we can identify a problem. Maybe the Exchange server is having some issues and it's caused by an update. Well, we can tell here that it has a cumulative update applied to it, and the domain controller is missing that update. In the next column, this is SP/release. SP stands for Service Pack. So back when Microsoft was doing the service packs on Windows 7, Windows XP, so on, it would tell us which service pack is applied. In this case, Windows 10 changed models. So we can see here that the tech machine is on 1903, and 1607 is the release for Windows Server 2016. Under uptime, you can see how long the server's been online. In this case, the Exchange server is reporting 15 days, 13 hours. I know that's incorrect because this has not been scanned, but we'll go over that in a second. Same thing with the domain controller and the tech PC. We can also see under current user who is actually logged in. Let me try and make this a little bit bigger there. There we go. So we got some additional information here. So we can see that Tide Blue administrator is disconnected, so a remote session was open. Let's go ahead and rearrange those back to where they were. So on the domain controller, the administrator was connected but disconnected, but still logged in. And on the Exchange server, the administrator user is logged into the console, and that's why it's showing locked, that the PC is locked. In this case, I'm logged into the tech PC, and it's I'm currently connected, so that's why it's not showing anything here. Under successful scan date, again, this is the last time that the computer was scanned. And that's why I mentioned that the uptime is wrong, and that's because I did reboot the Exchange server a little recently, so this uptime is incorrect, and that's because of when it last scanned. Now the last few columns here, manufacturer, model, memory, and CPU. These are all going to be a little bit different but yet the same for these machines because they're all residing on the same physical server. These are actually virtual machines, and that's why make this a little bit bigger here. And that's why the model and the manufacturer is the same thing with the CPU. The only thing that's different is the memory. So let's take a look at scanning a computer real quick. So let's select our Exchange server, and if we right click on it, we can do a standard scan, and you'll see that these other scans are grayed out, and that's because these require enterprise mode. So although you don't get these kind of scans within the free version, we can still do a standard scan, which gives us everything. If we had a scan collection, so if we had this in a collection, same thing. And here's where I was talking about the heartbeat. So let's move this back over. So this is the heartbeat. And if I right click on here and I click heartbeat, you just saw it refresh, and then it verified that yes, the Exchange server is online. Let's go ahead and kick off a scan. So I'm going to click on Scan Computers, Standard. And you'll see that it's queued up and connecting. And this will probably just take a few minutes. So while that's scanning, let's take a look at the Tech PC. I'm going to right click on this. We can actually run reports. We can print reports. Under Tools, we can view the event viewer. We can reboot or shut down the machine. We can connect to remote desktop. We can connect to VNC. We can wake the machine if we have Wake on LAN enabled. And let's just view computer details. And here we go. Here's everything. Dropped us into applications. This is everything that we have installed on this machine so far. So you can see we have LibreOffice, we have Microsoft Edge Dev, Microsoft Edge Update, that's the update application, Microsoft OneDrive, Firefox, Notepad++, PDQ Deploy, PDQ Inventory, PuTTY, and the QEMU guest agent. So that's for our virtual machine. If we take a look at computer, this will provide some details for us if you're trying to diagnose an issue with this machine remotely. For example, we can see that its host name is techpc.corp.tideblue.net. That's the Active Directory domain. We can see when it was added into PDQ Inventory. We can see the uptime, and here again, here's our heartbeat. We can see the current user who's logged in and the current user's display name, the IP address, MAC address, time zone. And over here we can get our Active Directory details, such as which domain controller it's talking to. In this case, it's talking to tbdc01.corp.tideblue.net, and that's useful if you have multiple domain controllers in your Active Directory domain. Sometimes a domain controller might be responding with the wrong information, and you might need to see if there's an issue with it. Maybe it's all the machines that are talking to this one domain controller, in which case you can reboot that domain controller and the machines will start talking to another domain controller in your domain. Down here we have our operating system information. So again, we can see our OS, the name of it. In this case, it's Microsoft Windows 10 Pro. We get the full version number, the release number, when it was installed, the system drive, what version of PowerShell is installed, if SMB version 1 server is enabled or SMB version 1 client is enabled. In this case it's no, and that's because SMB v1 does have some security flaws, so you want to make sure those are no unless you absolutely need them. You can see which version IE is installed, the architecture of the CPU, in this case 64-bit, and we can also see which versions of .NET are installed. In this case we have 4.0 and 4.8. This is also a very handy piece of information, this field right here, needs reboot. Sometimes users will neglect to reboot their machines and their machines will be acting a little wonky. Maybe a piece of software will refuse to install or will refuse to run. And if you pop into PDQ Inventory and you see that needs reboot is yes, you might want to try rebooting the machine and then rerunning the software or trying to reinstall the software. And that will usually fix it up. Now you'll see the padlock next to a few of these items here, and those again mean that we need the enterprise version of this. So we won't be covering the enterprise features in this video. We'll cover those a little bit later. If we click on CPU, we can see that there's one physical CPU with 8 cores. So we have a total logical cores of 8, and 8 cores are enabled. This comes in handy if you're trying to troubleshoot. Windows does license based off of the number of cores per CPU, as well as also physical sockets as well. So depending on the version, you may note that you should be seeing maybe, for example, 24 cores on a server, but with the Windows version that you installed, you're only getting 16. It'll tell you that you're going to have some that are disabled. It'll show you that you have 16 cores enabled, but you're showing 24 logical cores, and that would be a problem. We can also see here the full name of the CPU, in this case Intel Xeon, the description of it, the processor speed, manufacturer, and again the cores and logical cores. If we switch over to disk drive, same thing, we can see what's going on with it. In this case it's an IDE hard drive. We can see the serial number, the firmware number, and the smart status if we had enterprise. Same thing with BitLocker. So we can see here the physical disk partition, so our C partition. It's 99 gigs in size. We have 75 gigabytes free, so 75% free. It's running the NTFS file system, it's local, serial number, and if BitLocker was enabled and we had the enterprise version, it would tell us right here. Displays isn't going to matter because we're in a virtual environment, so there are no displays. Under environment, we can see the paths going on here. Under hardware, we get more information about the hardware. Again, we can see this is like looking at device manager. Under hotfixes, these are the hotfixes that are installed on the computer. So we can see if somebody actually installed it or if it was Windows that installed it. And if we right click on here, we can actually export this data to a file, which comes in handy if you need to export this information. Under local groups, we can see all the local groups on this machine. So this is the local administrators group, the Hyper-V administrators group, iUsers group, power users, and so on. Under local users, we can see the status of accounts. In this case, we have the built-in administrator account. Again, we can export the list of accounts. And you can see here's my local account. Under memory, again, if this wasn't a physical, or if this wasn't a virtual machine and it was a physical machine, we'd actually see a little bit more useful information here. Same thing with the NICs. In this case, we're just emulating an Intel Pro 1000 MT. So it's reporting as Intel and Ethernet 802.3, our MAC address, and that's connected at 1 gigabyte. Under printers, we have no printers, just the default Windows printers. Under processes, we can see what's running. This will take a second to gather all the processes. Under scans, we can actually see a history of all the scans. So we can see who ran the scan, the scan console, so where the scan was initiated from, and the status of the scan. Under services, we can see all the services on the machine and if they're running or stopped. Under shares, this is useful if you have some file shares set up or you want to see what file shares are set up. In this case, we still have the remote admin share and the default share. These are enabled. Under Windows features, we can see which features are enabled. In this case, let's make this a little bit wider here. So here's our .NET Framework 4.8 Advanced Services, so that's enabled. And that's what gives us .NET 4.0 as well. So you can see we don't have anything else. We do have Internet Explorer 11, Internet Printing, media features, print to PDF, and so forth. So this comes in handy. It also lists the Windows subsystem for Linux and Sandbox, so we can see if those features were enabled as well. In this case, they're not enabled. And that's pretty much it. That's just a quick walkthrough of PDQ Inventory. Let's take a look at our Exchange server. Yep, so right there. 1 day, 12 hours, and nobody is logged into it. So that's what we would expect to see on a server account. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video was informative, and stay tuned for the next video where we're going to cover PDQ deploy. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. If this video helped you out, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe because I will be coming out with more videos that'll cover more tools. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.